Life as we know it will never be the same since COVID-19. Stay tuned to find out what you can do to keep you and your family safe. My name is Jason Bradley, and you're watching Urban Report. Hello and welcome to Urban Report. My guest today is Dr. Theodore Watkins, founder and president of the Watkins Institute. Welcome to Urban Report, Dr. Watkins.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you today.
It's great to have you here. You know, this COVID-19 stuff has transformed our way of life. I've got sitting here next to me, I've got a mask. And you see a lot of people wearing masks on the street now. Let's talk about the symptoms of COVID-19. What are the symptoms?
Well, the symptoms can be divided really into mild symptoms. You can have things like flu-like symptoms, a cough. Mm-hmm. That cough generally occurs, 2 to 7 days after the virus hits. You can have things like body aches. Mm-hmm. You have GI symptoms. You can have problems breathing, mild problems breathing, and that can actually start at the onset of the symptoms. And then you can even get diarrhea. But if it's more severe, one of the big problems is pneumonia. Okay. And it's a special type of pneumonia that really restricts the lungs. I was talking to one of my nurse friends just yesterday, and she was telling me how they had patients on a ventilator, and normally there's something called PEEP, P-E-E-P, mm-hmm. Which is a positive in expiratory pressure, and normally you get it up to about 5. They took the patient up to 14, and it still was not adequate to be able to get the oxygen into the person. Wow. And so pneumonia is a major problem with that stiffening of the lungs. Mm-hmm. You can get kidney failure. You can get, a person can even die with this disease.
Yes, yes. What's the difference between the presentation of COVID-19 and regular influenza?
Well, as you know, with regular influenza, you have the fever, you have the chills, you may have some nasal congestion, but it's short-lived. Mm-hmm. Body aches. Whereas COVID-19 can start out like that, but and for many people it will stay like that. All right, but the person who gets severe disease, then they can go on to the severe symptoms that we talked about, that ends in death. Now, certainly we know that regular influenza also can end in death, but it's much less. About almost 3.5 times more frequent that you get death in a person with COVID-19 as you would with someone with the regular flu.
Wow, that's interesting. What type of medicine? What's your specialty?
Well, my training actually was in surgery.
Okay.
But now I practice more of a family practice with an emphasis on natural, holistic type presentation. Okay. Using the methods that God gave us mm-hmm. to get well.
Mm-hmm. So would you say it's like kind of integrative medicine or?
Yes, a form of integrative medicine, yes.
Okay. And how long have you been practicing?
I'm an old man, Jay. I finished my residency in 83, and that's when I switched from surgery to holistic medicine. So I've been practicing since 1983.
Wow. And what made you decide to go that
Before you were
route?
born.
Yeah, that actually was a few years before I came into the world.
Years before, yeah.
Yes, yes. So what made you decide to go into that line of work?
Um, it's very interesting. People say, well, you were really smart to switch over from surgery to holistic medicine. Uh, I said, no, I was not. Um, God told me to leave surgery. And I told God, no, I'm good with this knife.
Uh-huh,
you know,
uh-huh.
um, He said, no, I need you in holistic medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a group of us who was going to go down south to do this self-supported ministry. And I actually went into surgery for that. I would have done probably cardiology. But after they backed out, I was depressed. And I almost never get depressed, but I was depressed. And so I asked the Lord, what should I do? And he
Mm-hmm.
said, leave surgery. I said, no, Lord. But it took me 2 years to get the courage to leave.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Because surgery, that knife, very powerful. You know,
Yes.
I've opened up people's chests right in the emergency room, trying to save their lives. But I am so happy that I listened to God, and He led me to. We need surgeons. We need, and whenever one of my patients needs a surgeon, I try to find the best surgeon I can.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many people that can avoid surgery and medication if we just use the simple principles that God has given us.
Amen. Amen. And that brings me to my next question, which is, what are some of the nutritional changes we can make to support the immune system?
You know, one of the interesting things is that most of the diseases, or many of the diseases that we face today, are associated with the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a third-year resident, I did my pediatrics at Bethesda Naval, and I wrote a paper on, if we're going to overcome cancer, we must do it by strengthening the immune system. How do you do that? You do it by your diet, fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains,
Mm-hmm.
seeds, nuts, beans. These common foods that are just packed with nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are certain herbs and other supplements that you can use to really strengthen the immune system. I don't push a lot of herbs in my practice. There are only a couple that I will use frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Vitamin B12, because I encourage most of my patients to be vegans. Well, I encourage all of them to be vegans, and many of them listen. And so vitamin B12 is needed. And I find that vitamin D, which both of which are very important to strengthen the immune system.
Mm-hmm.
And then vitamin C, zinc, other nutrients like that are very important. Now, one of the things that I'm using, and I understand that someone's saying that they even heard it mentioned on your station, NC, NAC,
Oh,
you
yes.
know,
Mm-hmm.
N-acetylcysteine,
Mm-hmm.
because it stimulates the immune system, and it's very, very, very beneficial.
Gotcha, gotcha. Now, vitamin B12, that gives you
But
energy
let me
too,
let me
doesn't
go a
it?
little further.
Okay,
Let me go a little
okay.
further on this. Um, there are other simple things that are important. One of the most important things, I believe, is decreasing stress.
Hmm.
Decrease stress. And my formula for decreasing stress is take your burdens to the Lord and leave them.
Mm-hmm.
He promised us that He would not leave us or forsake us. And if we believe that, you know, when I was in school, I learned the only fear we have of the future is that we forget where God has led us in the past. We must remember that God is in charge. And so
Mm-hmm.
decreasing stress, exercise, plenty of water, rest. I interviewed a doctor just 2 weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
on my radio show here, um, dealing with sleep. And he talked about the importance of sleep and how it boosts the immune system and can help one tackle this virus.
Mm. Interesting, interesting. It seems like your faith plays a huge role in what you do. How does your faith come into play in your line of work?
Well, when I was graduating from medical school, I made a decision that if ever there was a conflict between what God teaches and what I learned in medical school, I was going with God. You know, um, I I said God got me in, He had to get me out. And once I got out, I didn't want to forget how I got in and got out. And so God is, I tell people I'm just a little project boy, a little welfare kid that God has blessed. And
Wow.
so I can't forget where He's brought me. And if in addition, Jason, what I find is that when we deal with patients, and this COVID virus is a classic example, there's a lot of fear. You know, people are fearful of even with all the medical science that we have, how can we handle this thing?
Yes.
You know, and I tell them, yes, I believe in washing my hands and doing the things that we need to do, using my mask when I'm going to be in public. But I don't worry about the virus because my God has, He said, if you put the blood on the doorpost, I'm going to pass over. And I believe that He's passing over now. And so I trust Him because I remember what He's done for me in the past and what He's doing for me even now.
Amen. What are some things that we can do to protect our homes from the virus?
Well, one, we need to clean it down. We need to clean it down. We can use alcohol and other um, uh, uh, germicidal solutions. I don't want to get commercial, but if you go into the store, you're not going to find Lysol because everybody has found out that Lysol is a good germicidal. And
Yes.
so, but regular rubbing alcohol, but it needs to be at least 60%. Clean all the areas that you're going to come in contact with. Um, and, if someone comes into your home that's not a part of the family, they need to have masks, gloves, etc. And then when they leave, you need to make sure that you sterilize the area. We can't see the virus. And so we have to assume that the virus comes in when someone else comes in. When we go out and we come in, we need to make sure that we wipe down. When I come in, I spray the knobs and so forth. Anywhere I go and wash my hands. And you need to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with warm soapy water. You don't have warm soapy water, you can use, the Lysol, you can use the 60% alcohol, etc. The hand sterilizers to clean yourself. Those are the kinds of things you need to do. If there's someone that you suspect has come in contact, you need to isolate them, quarantine them in the house so that they don't spread it to other members of the house.
Yes, yes. One of the things that I'm trying to do is limit anybody that comes to the house. Like, I'm not really having any type of visitors or anything because you really don't know who's carrying it, and you don't know if you have it, right away.
Exactly.
And that's very
Exactly.
scary. That is something that is
Very,
scary
very.
about this.
If anything, but once again, that's where trust in God comes in. We do what we can, and
Yeah.
God will do the rest.
Yes.
But avoiding people that you don't, my daughter got on me so bad. Daddy, you cannot go back to the office. And so now for about 4 weeks, I've been doing telemedicine because
Okay.
you just can't trust the situation. You just don't know.
So let me ask you this, because it seems like this thing has been spreading at such a rapid rate. How does the virus spread?
Well, it generally spreads through droplets, all right, through
Mm-hmm.
droplets. Someone coughs, they sneeze, and you inhale it, you know, and it goes into your body and multiplies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, you can touch um, a surface that someone with the virus has touched or have sneezed, and uh, now they're suggesting even that it's in the air, and just talking to someone. I heard the other day, just talking can actually spread the virus, and so, but it's basically the droplets um, that come from the mouth, from the nose, the primary way in which you spread.
So, if I hear you correctly, just talking to somebody, does that mean like as you're talking to somebody, sometimes when people talk, some droplets come out of their mouth? Is that
They
what you're
spit.
saying? Okay, okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
They can emit droplets that get into the air and can spread.
Okay. You know what I find really nasty is that, all of this stuff has been taking place all of this time. I don't think we've realized exactly how many droplets and stuff we encounter on a daily basis. But this is really bringing a wake-up call to that.
I remember as a little boy, um, when we moved up to the projects,
Mm-hmm.
um, seeing the dust, the light hit the dust in the air and flicker, and you see all those particles,
Hmm.
well, they're still in the air.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't see them, all right? But they're there, and they can spread for quite a 15 feet or more, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's very important. Generally, we say 6 feet, but they can actually spread further than that.
Wow. What are some common myths about COVID-19?
Well, um, people say that you know certain that certain people can't get it. That
Mm.
their immune system is so strong that they can't get it, or that it only affects older people, sick people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's truly a myth because young athletes, we know NBA players,
Mm-hmm.
other athletes, strong in the prime of life, they've gotten it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a myth that only old people. In fact, as we look at that, we need to recognize that in your area, in Chicago, um, a about 97%. I was reading just this morning. 97% of the deaths that have occurred in Chicago are in people who have pre-existing illnesses
Mm-hmm.
or over 60. Now, those pre-existing illnesses can occur in young people. A young man just came to my office today. I wasn't there, but my secretary gave him some things to boost his immune system. He's in his 30s, all right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
others in their 30s. There are people who have died in their 30s and 40s and 50s. And so that's a myth, all right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, there's a lot of things going around that it's a conspiracy. you know, I tell people this is a real virus,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really killing people. And certainly there are people who will conspire, but I'm not taking any chances on some
Yes.
conspiracy.
Yes.
I want to do everything I can to improve my immune system, to stay away, to do that distancing that we need to do. So those are myths.
Absolutely. What what a-
Those are some common.
what about the fact that if you catch the virus, you can't get it again? Is that a myth?
Um, I can't say that it's a myth. Um, the research on this is conflicting.
Okay.
There have been studies to show that people who got it, for instance, in China, afterwards they um, had a relapse or got it again. Now, the question is, did they ever get rid of the virus? Uh, Another study that I was reading about some young people in China. They were said to overcome, but they did a study where they actually tested them with the swabs in the nose, 5 days, up to 13 days. They tested them after they were, quote, well.
Wow.
And the virus was present on every one of the tests.
Wow.
All right. So we know that these viruses can linger. You know, the Ebola virus, it was around months after a person was, quote, well, you know, so that they were carriers. They didn't have an active disease, but they were still carriers of the virus. Therefore, they could pass it on to others.
Yes.
And possibly, depending on the situation, could get reinfected again.
At what point would you say someone should go get tested?
That's another very good question. You know, if you have symptoms, a fever, known contact with someone who has been tested positive, you've had recent travel, especially out of the country or to an endemic area, those people definitely should be tested. If you have pre-existing illnesses and any of those symptoms, you definitely need to be tested. Now, what's the process? The first thing I would do is suggest you call your private physician. All right? Or if you can't reach them, in most areas, especially in cities, there are places through the Department of Health that's been set up where you can call and they can direct you as to where you should go. Because number one, you need an appointment. You know, it's getting better now, but still, in the beginning, there was such a shortage of tests. I mean, you could go and still not be tested. And in fact, by going, put yourself at risk because you're around other people who are positive.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have it, you could get it by exposing yourself.
Yes.
They say the emergency room is one of the worst places to be in this time because if you don't have it, when you leave, you'll have it.
Absolutely. It's interesting, you know, exactly what you're saying. You know, you can go in and get tested for it and not have it, but then you go in and then, you know, you may get it. You never know.
And also with this, it's depending on when you were tested. All right? You may be exposed. If you aren't having symptoms, all right, you can go in, you can be tested and be negative, and then later get it because the incubation period can differ from 2 days, 14 days, you know?
Yes.
And so that's why, in addition to that, we know that people will have it, be positive, and never have symptoms.
Wow.
So you can't always wait for symptoms. So that's why, have you been exposed to someone, you know, have you been in an endemic area, been flying, etc. Those are factors.
Let me ask you this. You know, if someone's in home isolation because they believe they might be infected, how do they know when it's safe to discontinue that isolation?
One, the fever will break, all right? If they have other symptoms, they'll clear. Just like if you had the flu, you sort of know when the flu is over. But in addition to that, you need to be tested. If you've been tested positive, you need to be tested again. In fact, 2 days in a row, you need to have negative tests in order to be assumed that you're over with the virus. And so once the symptoms clear, then you can go and you can get tested 2 days. And if you are free, then you can consider yourself to have been be over the virus.
Okay. What steps can doctors take to stay healthy during COVID-19, during this pandemic?
In addition to to eating right, getting their rest, and trusting in God. Um, they certainly need to have the protective equipment, um, and they need to limit their contact with patients. Most doctors now, unless they are in the emergent, the critical care area, are doing phone telemedicine.
Okay.
Because you don't know who has it. And so most doctors are not directly, I contacted a doctor today, and he's a urologist. And no, he was a dermatologist. And he said, well, I'm going to be in my office to see only emergencies on Thursday. But of course, he's going to be, have the appropriate protection on and just see people from a distance.
Okay.
Doctors, when I was talking to a urologist yesterday, and he said he schedules them. They come in layered. They don't have patients sitting in the emergency room. They come in, in the office. They come in, they're seen, they leave.
Yeah, so they're still practicing their social distancing in a way
I'm
too.
not practicing, but it's much less.
Yes.
Much less.
Now you also conduct seminars and all of that stuff as well, right? If somebody wants to reach out to you and book you for a seminar, what's your website?
It's www.twiliving.com. TWI, that stands for the Watkins Institute.
Gotcha.
Living.com.
Got you. TWIliving.com, and they can book you for seminars and all of that. What words of encouragement do you want to leave with our viewers? We've got about 45 seconds.
Well, you asked me before about this faith thing. I think people need to recognize that God is in charge. Things look bad, but God is in charge. And if we do our part, He will certainly do His part. And so do the things, wash, learn how to protect yourself, and then do it, and then trust God, and He will take care of us.
Amen. Amen. Well, it's safe to say that we see how your faith comes into play in practice in medicine. I want to thank you so much for your expertise. Thank you for joining us on the program. Well, we've reached the end of another program. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you tune in next time, and remember, it just wouldn't be the same without you.